Welcome, everybody, to Conversations in Ken's Cafe. We have Jane Calm with us today, and she is a somatic therapy expert. Now, I think I said it right, but I probably didn't. But Jane, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience a little bit and tell us what exactly somatic therapy is, please?
Sure, I can do that. My name is Jane Calm, although my actual name is Jane Panic. Seriously. But being a therapist, a counselor, it didn't seem like very appropriate to use
Mhm.
my actual last name, which is Jane Panic.
Yeah, nobody really want to come to the panic place, okay?
So I like the hilarity and irony and also appropriateness of calling myself Jane Calm Counseling.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I discovered somatic work. I discovered it on my own, and I credit it with being what finally, really, in a practical, real way, changed my relationship with my eating disorder. It was
Okay.
actually practically cured
Mhm.
because I discovered somatic work. I discovered it myself. Just sitting at the kitchen table one day, I realized that if I don't slow down and actually feel the feelings of anxiety and pain and disgust and self-hatred in my body, if I didn't actually visit where they lived in my body, I wasn't
Mhm.
going to really be able to heal. If I couldn't sit with what was in my body, how was I going to heal? It just dawned on me. And that is the premise of somatic work is instead of what shows up in traditional talk therapy where you talk about and analyze and you get curious about where the feelings came from. So you'd
Right.
spend a lot of time in the mental zone. That was
Mhm.
helpful, but it never really shifted it. It wasn't until I discovered that somatic work, the work of slowing down and being literally with the sensations in your body as they arise and developing a relationship with them. So, developing a caregiving relationship with my own feelings in a way that is as personal as how you would care for a friend or a partner or a child. And
Mhm.
that's what I discovered actually, that they are children because our feeling reactions were invented, our ways of coping were invented when we were children, and they don't
Mhm.
change. They're pretty much set in stone. And so getting rid of them is impossible, but learning to communicate with them as they're coming up is possible. And that provided me with the care and the understanding and also the ability to advocate for myself that I didn't have before. So
Mhm.
I don't know, that was a off the cuff interpretation of somatic therapy. Yeah.
Well, so basically you're getting in touch not just with the feeling of the trauma, etc. inside, but you're linking it at a much deeper level, both emotionally and physically.
Yeah. I really like to make it just super simple and personal. I'm literally
Mhm.
connecting and teaching my clients to connect with the feelings in their bodies the same way they connect with another person.
Yeah.
If
And
you're
diggity.
really connecting with another person, you're listening to them, you're giving them the chance to speak, you're regulating, you're really feeling their feeling with them. And then you're
Mhm.
also asking them, how can I support you? You're listening to how you can support them, and then you're showing up with that support, that request support. And so
Mhm.
it's the same thing as connecting with another person or a child. I like to view it more as connecting with children because our feelings, I in my practice, I call them children actually. I say these are your kid parts. And the
Yeah.
reason that I call them your kid parts, the feelings inside of you that you want to connect with, is because they have the same they're like kids, they're intelligent. Every feeling you have has intelligence, just like children.
Yeah.
But like children, they have needs that they cannot have met because they're a child without an adult. So the same thing is happening in our bodies. Our anxiety, intelligence, and it has needs that only our adult self is what I refer to as that wise, connected part of us.
Mhm.
Only the wise, connected part of us can provide directly for our own feelings. So if we don't have a relationship with our own feelings directly, how do we think we're going to care for them? And it's the same as, if you don't have a relationship with your partner, if you're not really listening to them, they're not going to feel cared for by you. So
Hmm.
it actually, quite simply, it's just the emotional science of relationship, but in your own body.
And that's fantastic. And you're mentioning there, it's like you're dealing with a child, because it's those childish memories that have set up who you are right
Yeah.
now in this moment, and to connect the two and bring, are you literally bringing the child up to your age now, or are you still dealing with that, keeping it as a child and working in that childish attitudes?
Oh, that's a cool question. I like that. So my sessions are usually have two separate parts. The part where we
Mhm.
talk about what's going on, which
Right.
I would equate to two parents talking about their tantruming, upset child and trying to figure out what's going on. Like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, did he eat too much sugar? Was he fighting with his brother? What's going on? But eventually that kind of runs its course, which is, in my personal opinion, why talk therapy doesn't go very far.
Hmm.
Because talking about the problem and analyzing it doesn't create connection. It helps with the connection to guess
Hmm.
what's going on and to see if that has any accuracy. But eventually, we need to slow down and notice the feelings in our body. So then my sessions go into the second part, which is the somatic experiencing, where I take my clients down into their body, kind of like they're entering a house when they go into their body. So you take your attention down and you're noticing your head, and then you're closing your eyes. You notice the room of your heart and the room of each shoulder, all the way down to your feet. And this slowing down of your attention actually slows down your brain waves. And
Hmm.
slowing down your brain waves is very important, because just like if you want to connect with a scared animal, you have to approach slowly. You can't
Hmm.
come up to an animal and say, "Okay, I'm here. I'm listening. Let's go. What's your problem? Let's do this. You can
Oh,
trust me."
what lion wouldn't love for you to come up and do that? I mean, they go, "Oh yeah, come here, baby."
No. Exactly. No, they will either go into a freeze
Yeah,
response like, "Ah," or they'll fight. They'll
yeah,
resist. They'll
fight
say,
or
"Get
flight.
lost."
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the importance of slowing down the brainwaves, is regulating to the space of care that animals or children, when they're in sadness or fear, they
Hmm.
need you to slow down. And that's the same rule as with a person that's upset. You can't care for them unless you slow down. So when we slow down and go into the body and notice the feelings, often they'll take us back to a memory of where that feeling reaction was first
Yeah.
invented or showed up as a strategy. We'll go back to the memory. I can speak to my first memory that I first visited somatically, and it was my brother. Um, he was very, very mean to me. And in the memory, he took my girlfriend, the same age as me, and he played with her and wrestled with her in front of me. But he told me all I was allowed to do was watch. And when I visited this memory, I was able to slow down and visit it. It's it's actually like folding time in a way. So you can take your present adult self and go sit in the room with the child part that's upset and notice them from your adult awareness with the
Hmm.
intimacy that only the actual person can have. Only I can absolutely intimately experience what I need and what's happening to me. And so taking your adult self back into the memory, slowing down and saying literally, and I get my clients to speak out loud. I think it's really
Right.
important to use your throat chakra to like use the willpower. So even though their eyes are closed and they're visiting the feeling in their body, I get them to say things out loud. For instance, in that memory that I brought up, I was visiting my child self and I said to her, "Tell me what's happening for you. I'm listening." And then
Hmm.
she says, "Oh, he's not paying attention to me. He doesn't love me." And then I say, and then the relationship develops till eventually she's sitting with me and we're understanding my brother together. So we're looking at my brother, and in her body, she's understanding that he doesn't hate you, he's afraid of you.
Hmm.
And I'm not afraid of you. I understand you. And so now not only does she have understanding in my body, viewing my brother, she understands him and has empathy for him, but also boundaries maybe will come up. Maybe she'll want to say, like, get lost, you're mean, And I,
Well, yeah.
um, yeah. So however it shows up, and the beauty of this work is that it's absolutely intricate to each person. There is
Mm.
never a similar um time. Even if we visit the same memory, we'll still bring new, ongoing, expanding awareness to it. And the last thing I'll say is this is emotional science. When we have a running track in our body that says, like, I'm not good enough, and you visit the memory where it came from, and you bring in, you're not only good enough, you're a blessed child, and I adore you, and I see your value, and I love you, then though that memory and that track of anxiety and insecurity will never be alone again. You'll never get rid of it because it's a part of you. It's a part of what makes you
Mhm.
uniquely wounded and able to bond with other people in their wounds. But now you'll have the track right next to it of, and I'm valuable, and someone sees me, and there's someone here to advocate for me. And that's your adult self. So, what we're trying to do in the therapy is get to know the track of pain and bring along, right alongside it, the track of care so that
Mhm.
you never show up in your anxiety completely helpless again. You're like, oh, I get this. I know what's happening here. You can talk to it live. You also know the storyline of where it came from, and you know pretty much what it wants for support. But I also encourage asking in the present. So if I'm having
Mhm.
a present moment argument with my partner, I'll say, oh, I know this track, but what do you need right now? And it might be a little different, but it's usually similar because we're broken
Mhm.
records. We don't get a new childhood.
We just keep repeating that over and over
We
again.
do,
Yeah.
we do. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's amazing that you're dealing with what I call shadows and shadow work,
Okay,
those
yeah.
traumatic experiences from this lifetime, last lifetime, lifetimes before can come up in the wildest ways. Like people that are afraid of water, the suspected thing is that they drowned in a previous life,
Oh, okay.
and that's where this unnatural fear comes because it shouldn't really be there. They never had that experience as a child. So, do you look at past lifetimes as well
Hmm.
in this therapy?
I'm so glad you asked that. So that's not available to everybody. Not everybody is exploring the possibility of multi-dimensional spaces
Hmm.
or past lives or guidance. So that's also something that comes up a lot, which I love it so much. Is that when we go into these inner spaces of connection with our kid parts, what also shows up very, very, very often is guidance. When we
Hmm.
slow down to listen to our own feelings, what also shows up to help us is you are not alone. You
Yeah.
are not parenting yourself alone. You have guidance. And the somatic experience of guidance, meaning you can feel it in your physical body as well as your energetic body. And the guidance is unique to every single person, which is so interesting. It's so interesting to realize that everybody's guidance is extremely unique and ongoing and developing. I
Hmm.
have a relative that has been visiting me a lot lately in my inner work that I never, ever thought I had any connection with. And all of a sudden, because of tomatoes, I love growing tomatoes. And I found out that my ancestor was also obsessed with tomatoes. And since then, when I go inside, I can see him, I can feel
Hmm.
him. And that also happens for my clients in very, like, just endlessly unique ways. And sometimes when we go inside and we find the pain, it's very obviously pre-verbal. So it might be something that happened before you could speak. And so it's just sensations. And so you
Hmm.
have to connect with those sensations the same way that you would care for a baby that couldn't speak. You have to tune in and guess a little bit and try things out because they're communicating with you on a more somatic or a sensation psychic
Primal
level.
level.
Yeah. Well, primal, sure, you could say primal. Yeah. Yeah. But it's very normal. That's how babies
Hmm.
communicate. Yeah. But it's so amazing when you're a grown adult. I'm a 48-year-old woman, and then I'm like having an experience that I doesn't have words. It's a sensation experience. It's, the same thing can happen when we go inside. I
Hmm.
have had experiences where the past life narrative is very strong,
Hmm.
and I just follow it. That's my job, is not to judge what my client is bringing forth, but
Yeah.
to encourage them with questions, that they keep following the sensations and keep staying with them, like not diving out of like, uh yes, the DNA is literally made. I can see these comments, they're so lovely. That is a
Well,
beautiful statement. Our DNA, oh, it went away, is
oh.
literally made. Our DNA is literally made up from all our ancestors. Yes, that's another part of what happens, is that ancestors that weren't seen, understood in their
Hmm.
body, in their life, love to come through when we're slowing down and listening through the bones, through the DNA in our body, through the sensations in our body. They like to connect with this present struggle of the client and to ask for relationship. In my own work, my eating disorder had a lot to do with the struggles of poverty in my ancestry. There was a lot of just not having enough food, constantly not having enough food. And it ended up traveling down to my parents, who were the first people to have what would be considered an overabundance. They were
Hmm.
the first line that had that. And so the way it was being communicated, I mean, I can't explain it to you because it was hours of conversation, but that's what it ended up
Yeah.
tracking back to, and like really feeling for my ancestors that walked from Czechoslovakia to the coast to get on a boat to go where they could maybe make money. And there was, yeah, so
To have
that's
a future.
exactly true. Yes, to have a future. So this
Yeah.
work is so beautiful because when we're looking inside, we're actually hearing all these stories, and it's endlessly interesting. And you can look back. It's like you're looking at your ancestors. You look back, but now they're looking at you, and you're looking at each other. And you're like, oh,
Hmm.
grandfather, great grandmother, that's what you went through. I see you now. And the beauty of it is they react, the ancestors react like, finally.
You're
They're like,
listening,
you're listening.
finally.
Somebody is understanding why I was such an asshole to you when you were a baby, because I was in so much pain. Finally, someone's understanding me. Finally. And then the confessions get to happen back and forth, and there's so
Hmm.
much release. I call it sober psychedelia, because even though I've learned so much from plant medicine teachers, they're definitely
Hmm.
a big wake up connection space for me. I really, really love being able to access these spaces in sobriety. And so I
Hmm.
do say that to my clients, sober psychedelia.
Well, and that's wonderful because, like, when we were before the show started, we were talking about you were just at an ayahuasca
Peyote.
ceremony or peyote
Yeah.
ceremony,
Hickory.
and
Yep.
that's where your whole journey really started back when you were a
Yeah.
teenager. Would
Yes.
you mind sharing some of that?
I would love to share that. I'm so honored to have been taught by such amazing humans. When
Hmm.
I was 19, I dropped out of university. That was in 1998. I dropped out of university because I was sensing the hypocrisy of paying people to agree with them when I didn't agree with them. And I
Hmm.
had just felt like this is kind of, I didn't really know how to put words to it because I was fresh out of high school, but I knew that something wasn't quite right. And so I went to Mexico with a partner of mine, and we just through synchronicity, this is before the internet, before cell phones, we ended up living on a property. And the man that owned the property, his name is Carlos, and he was a Texas guy, and he was a ex multimillionaire. He
Okay.
gave away all of his money because he found spirituality and was like, this is sucking my soul. This is taking my life breath away. So he gave away all his money and he bought a hotel with it. And then he sold the hotel, and then he bought this piece of land with the last of his money. So now he's just living on trust, just like the lower classes. And he ended up inviting with his heart people to come and learn from the Waratica people. So the term Huichol is the I guess Spanish name for like what the conquerors named, the
Okay.
colonizers named them. This is Huichol, but they are in their own language called Waratica. And we ended up connecting with this community of Robotica people, about 8 of my young friends. I was only 20 years old, and we ended
Mhm.
up having the incredible experience of going to the desert and living with them in their communities and eating the peyote and learning from their ceremonies with them. And granddaddy hickory, that's the name of peyote in their language, and that is just a ego shattering experience. I
Okay.
learned so much from it, coming from, suburban Edmonton, Alberta, just raised on cartoons and cereal, to wow, I'm living with people who literally, it took a bus, a boat, and a donkey to get to where they live. And like, they are hunting and growing corn, and they live in houses that are made of dirt that they never go in. They're mostly outside. The houses you can't even really stand up in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a identity shattering experience that I credit so much of my learning to. And this was back when plant medicines weren't a part of the everyday culture. And
Mhm.
nowadays they're part of everyday North American culture. I think I was watching a sitcom where they were talking about ayahuasca, which was
Yeah.
really wild.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, and
So,
that's the thing, as our mental ability grows on this planet to understand more of the natural functions, these plant medicines are becoming more mainstream, and people are finding just how much they can help us, to heal ourselves both
mhm.
physically and mentally.
Yeah. I made up a quote. I said, taking plant medicine is like swallowing a therapist. Yeah. Yes, it seems to me a bit of a race against, uh, I call the system that we were raised in, I call it the abuse system, because
Hmm.
it teaches us to abuse ourselves and each other out of a survival impulse that's out of balance with nature. It's not an accurate survival impulse.
Hmm.
A survival impulse from animal to animal, like, we do eat each other. That would be a more natural survival impulse. But the abuse system teaches us to, it shares toxic shame, which is shame that's kind of invented through the abuse system, which gets us to focus excessively on competition and revenge and self-hatred and these unnatural spaces. So plant medicine can remind us of the slower, more uh, connected communication that the earth lives by. So it's kind of a race, because we're literally, destroying our access to
Yeah.
slowing down and being with the trees and the plants, and knowing that we can be cared for in a less materialistic, a consumeristic way.
Hmm.
So I'm glad the plant medicines are moving, but it's also just wild to watch. Wild to watch. It seems a bit like a race. Like, are
Yeah.
we gonna, but then
Yeah.
again, everybody dies. We're all gonna die. So
Hmm.
is it a race, or is it just a different kind of walk towards the inevitable, which is the release
I
from the
think
human body experience? Yeah.
I think each life is an opportunity to learn and grow, to move to a higher level. And unfortunately, there's so few that have moved at this point. The people that have are trying to get out into the general population to help bring them along, but we can only touch those who are willing to open their ears and listen and open their
Mhm.
hearts and feel.
Mhm. Yeah, part of why I adore my job is because my clients are from
Hmm.
all walks of life, and they come to me not knowing that I'm a raging hippie plant medicine weirdo.
Well, aren't
They
we
not
all?
No, no, we are not. And maybe on some level, which is what I really like, because what I've found when we go inside is that everyone's the same. Everyone is guided, everyone's connected, everyone is adored by the highest spirits and the truest love there is. We are all intricately loved, intricately guided, and there's not really a lot of difference. I would say that a difference is people who know to slow down and go in and pay
Become
attention, and people
aware.
who haven't learned that yet. But
Yep.
once we go in, it's the same, which is really relieving to me because I've always been suspicious of that since I was little. Are we all as connected to spirit as I feel? And the messaging I used to get when I was little was yes, but now I get to experience it, and that it's a fact.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have to agree with you 100%. There's
So far, so good. Anyway,
yeah, yeah.
I only have like I don't know some hundreds of a few hundred of clients, so I should slow down. But so far,
I'd say that you don't have to worry about finding ones that aren't, because if they're that evil, they're not even going to be searching you out. They're going to stay away from you, Jane.
thank you. Yes, that's a protective element that I do like to surround myself with before my sessions. That only those who are willing and excited to see and come to true love will be attracted to this space.
Exactly. And that is one of your protections. And that's one of the
Mm.
things that, even as a massage therapist, they need to consider that they can get a psychic backlash dealing with somebody's traumatic injury that they're working on. They can literally get an energetic backlash.
Yeah, that's something I've been playing around with a lot. I've been playing around with this concept in that's traveling in the spiritual languaging, which is
Mhm.
something like I took on someone's emotions or I took on that energy. And I've
Mhm.
been noticing it and thinking, I don't know if that's possible. I think actually what's happening, if we were to be more connected, so I'm going to throw this out there because I've just been thinking
Okay.
about it. What's actually happening is when I notice you, I feel this. So it's not that you're taking on someone's emotions. It's that their space, their emotional landscape is triggering something you haven't been paying attention to or hasn't come to light inside of your body. Because the
Mhm.
fact is, no one can go inside your body and create an environment. If you aren't susceptible to it, if it doesn't have something to latch
Mhm.
onto in you, it won't happen. So I feel like I've been correcting people and getting curious about that when they're saying or I'm saying I'm taking on that person's energy or I have to protect myself from that person or I am questioning
Mhm.
maybe what you want to say, which would be more accurate and efficient, is how am I feeling when I'm around them and what is that feeling showing me from when I was small? From
Mhm.
what fear kind of geometry of coping skills is it bringing up inside of me that are wanting to come to light because that person came into my awareness? That's what I've been playing with.
Mhm.
How does that land to you?
So I like to point this out, and this is something that I say: observe, don't absorb.
Oh.
Right? Like all the madness happening around us on this planet right now, you can
Mm.
observe it. You can see these people that it's absolutely to your reality would be crazy. You don't have to absorb that energy, but to go back to more the focus of what you're doing,
Yeah.
it's not so much the emotional energy. What you have to understand is energetic transference. So if you have, say, a heart that isn't healthy, if you put the energy into that heart of a healthy heart or that vibrational frequency, then that heart is going to become healthy because of those vibrations. If you're
Mhm.
dealing with
Yeah.
negative energies, those energies can interfere with your body and bring your energy down to their level, and that's where you would get sick. So protecting yourself from that energy or keeping yourself at such a high vibration, those energies can't come into you. You're affecting the other person in the positive way. Is more, I think, the alignment that I would like to see people set up in their own minds.
Yeah. There's things about that I enjoy. I like, and that's part of the somatic work is to feel what you're saying, like the lower vibrations, or so those would be pain and fear, sadness and
Um,
fear.
Actually, the lower vibrations can be a cell that isn't functioning right. Will have a lower energetic vibration than a cell that is healthy and strong. So
Right, but that's
it's
a
like,
physical way to say it, and what
mhm,
I'm saying is the emotional, the reason that something
yeah,
loses, like, is depleting,
hmm,
the emotional equivalent would be, uh, fear or sadness that isn't being met.
yeah,
And so if that's true, if I'm facing somebody and I'm feeling low,
hmm,
then I want to be able to have a part of me that pays attention to it and offers it what you're saying, which is the love and care and you
hmm,
belong, and then it feeds that, so it runs along parallel, and it
hmm,
it gives that sad, scared feeling the option because you're consciously bringing them in at the bringing in that possibility that you can be healthy, like a healthy heart.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
have the pain of, oh no, I have this painful heart. And maybe it came as a reflection of somebody who you noticed was low vibration and I took it on, but now you have it. So wherever it came from, it's there. How do you teach it? Teach that low vibration, or as you're saying, I don't like to say low vibration. I prefer to just
hmm,
call it out, like I'm scared or I'm sad or I'm nervous or I don't feel like I'm good enough. Whatever it is that came reflected, to feed to it, I hear you, I'm with you, you're valuable,
hmm,
and you're healthy, and it makes sense how you feel. Like these sentences that start to move it up into more and more connection.
hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. We're going off.
Well, and hey, this is a channel where we go off. We jump into the rabbit hole and we scratch around. And go, is there any wormholes down here we can go down?
I love worms.
So
Yeah.
do I. Well, it's the frequencies, and like you're dealing with clients, where you're bringing them into um a higher uh emotional understanding of themselves and the feelings that they have. But a lot of people don't do that type of therapy. They're doing other types of therapy, like as I said, the massage therapy,
Right.
where if they're not talking this through with the person, if they're not bringing that traumatic experience up to a level where it's never going to affect that person again, therefore not affecting them, then I think there's you're absolutely right in how you're setting yourself up. But for a person that doesn't have a clue that they're using cannabis oil for a deep tissue massage, and they're actually affecting the second and third epidermal layers,
Mm.
they can get an energetic backlash, not understand it, not deal with it, not have the person deal with it, and then it affects them on a cellular level. And
Mhm.
that's what has to be, looked at. And here comes my favorite pussycat wanting attention in my
Oh,
presence.
I love it. Love poots. I call cats poots. Poots. I have
Some
2.
days I wanted to put the boots to his butt, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's a curious thing. I think of it also too like synchronicity. Like if I am a massage therapist and I have a client, or as the clients that I attract, that it is
Mhm,
a two-way street, that I attract what is pain in them because it is pain in me that I'm looking
mhm,
at. And so I try to say, "Oh, thank you for rocking me today."
mhm,
I will look at this. I will ask what is coming up in reflection of my client, what it needs to be paid attention to, what it's saying to me, so that I
yeah,
can visit it and bring healing to it. And hopefully, the next time I see the same client or with a similar vibration, I'll be able to meet it with this relationship that is directly supportive. Like I know what this feels like, and I also
yeah,
know how to support it because I did that work and I made it my own. I said, this is happening in my body, therefore it's mine to pay attention to, and I'll do it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
just don't look at trying to get all these experiences to help other people. Use their experiences to grow yourself so you don't have to go through those traumatic experiences.
Yes. And if you do go through those traumatic experiences, you'll have more and more accessibility because we don't know when we're going to be traumatized. It's a
Yep.
complete shocking excitement to be a human. We don't know when we're going to be scared. We don't know when we're going to make mistakes. We don't know when someone we trust is going to do something that disappoints and scares us.
Hmm.
So the more that we pay attention, the more we'll have ready to go emotional, somatic parenting responses to she scared me, or oh, that client was icky. That was awful. And we're like, oh, remember we did this before. Like we know how to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in GHK. Have you heard of German healing medicine?
No, I can't say as I have.
Oh, it's incredible. Incredible, incredible work. A man named Dr. Hammer. He's a doctor. He discovered that um, when the body is in a state of shock, anything, even small shocks, the
Hmm.
body will protect itself and it will create protections that eventually, like for instance, if when we get a cold, that is called a stink conflict in German New Medicine. And it means that something in our environment to the animal body was repugnant. And we didn't think we could thrive if we were still smelling it. So what happens is the body, the animal body notices, ew, we don't like this person or we don't like this experience. So it puts a whole bunch of extra cells in the nasal passages. So you actually shut down your sensory to smell. It also would put uh, water on the brain. So you're less aware.
Hmm.
And so that's in the shock phase. And then when you go home, so maybe like you saw a person on the street and they like were yelling at you and you went into the shock of like, oh, a random person's yelling at me, and you shut down the sensory, put the water on the brain. Then you go home, you have Netflix, you have a cup of tea, you go into resolution. Now the body decides, okay, let's fix what we did. And so that's when Western medicine calls us sick. So your
Hmm.
nose starts running because you're getting rid of all those extra cells you made so that you wouldn't smell. That's the nose running. The throat starts to hurt because all the extra cells that were created to keep you from speaking around that person, because it wouldn't be to your animal body, that would be dangerous to speak. That was all
Hmm.
the extra cells in your throat. So that's Western medicine calls that a cold. The water comes off your brain. That's the like head fog. But the according to Dr. Hammer, you're gonna love exploring this. It's incredible. According to Dr. Hammer, what Western medicine calls sick and
Hmm.
benefits off of is actually when the body is healing from what it did to protect us in the shock. It said that all sickness, all of them, are shocks. Something shocking happened, even subtle shock. Um, and the sickness is when you have started to resolve it. That's when your body shows up with sickness, but it's actually healing.
That's actually very interesting. I'm gonna have to check into that a little bit more. I'll get you to
Yeah,
send me a link to or
I
something where I can
will.
check it out. Thank
Yes,
you.
I
Thank you.
love it. Mhm. Dr. Hammer, he died in exile. The whole medicine community just completely discredited him all over the internet. When you look up on the internet, he's an anti-Semitic, of course, like just awful, awful things all over the internet.
Hmm.
He died running from. He's just a beautiful, beautiful man. It's very obvious that he was trying to help us to understand our bodies better, but Western medicine, in my opinion, doesn't want you to understand your body. It doesn't want you to feel connected. So they
Well,
went after him hardcore.
yeah, it's all for Western medicine, and it's all about the money. It's just the same with the Western agriculture. It's all about the profits
Yeah,
and stuff like
totally.
that. It's not about health.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, speaking of health, do you recommend a diet change for people? or is that something that gets brought up by their own bodies and their
Yeah.
child bodies saying like, look, hello?
Mhm. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Every person's experience is different. So it is at the end of each session, we notice what happened in the session and then we
Hmm.
create homework. The homework is basically just how to bring what we learned in the session into your everyday life. That's something that I find incredibly, incredibly important. It's not the sessions with me or even the plant medicines.
Hmm.
Um, the plant medicine ceremonies are not where the healing actually happens. That's where you see kind of like a movie or a photograph of what needs to happen,
Right.
but it's in your everyday, boring, mundane life where you actually make change. So the homework is, I would say, more important. Noticing what happened in our session together, noticing what happened in your plant medicine ceremony, and giving yourself assignments in your sobriety.
Hmm.
So the assignment might be I need to create the space to talk to my estranged parent, or I need to notice my diet and become more disciplined. And our society is often looking for some kind of savior, like something that's going to come along and make
A
things
magic
different.
pill.
A magic pill, a magic therapist, a magic plant. And unfortunately, I'm excited for people to wake up to that's impossible. There's
You are the
nothing that's
magic.
going to fix you, because the sad part of it is that if you were looking at yourself, this is my opinion, if you were looking at yourself from your dead body down at your life, if you had been given a magic pill, you would have been like, "Oh man, I didn't get to freaking learn anything. I didn't get to have any experiences. Someone just gave me a pill." You wouldn't want
Hmm.
that. You want the mundane experience of building muscles, the everyday repetition of the weightlifting. You want the painful, confusing experience of having deep conversations with your partner and your children and your family members. You want to learn those muscles. That's what you came here for. So the
Yeah.
waste of time that our, quick fix, hedonistic, short-term goal society has given us these ideas that you can skip all of the intimacy of actual growth. And it's
Mhm.
impossible. In my opinion, that's why we're being kind of woken up to the corruption of spiritual teachers. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
noticed that a lot of spiritual teachers are falling hard off their pedestals with accusations of rape and pedophilia. And I can see that. I can see why that happens because we feed into them not paying attention, not having to pay attention. Like, yes, fix me. It's fine. You're good. You're the teacher. Whoop!
Mhm.
Oh, was that your puppy?
That's one of them. Yep.
I'm so jumpy. I inherited him from my mom. Yeah. So I'm excited for people to start to become slower and more intimate with their healing. Are you still there?
I don't know
Oh,
if yeah, I don't know if I froze up or you froze up or everything froze up there for a second.
yep, you froze up. I was still moving on my end, but whatever. Here we are now.
Okay, I'm back.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just saying that was my puppy Jazz agreeing with you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jess.
So,
Yeah.
what else would you like to share with the audience on what you do? And like, I know people were in the chat talking about past life regression.
Mm.
Do any of that kind of stuff for clients?
Well, I follow what comes up. So, are you there? Yeah. I
Yep.
follow what comes up when we go inside. They close their eyes. We slow down and notice. I don't curate it at all. It's
Okay.
entirely following what sensations come up for them. So they might say something like, "I'm noticing a rock in my stomach." I say, "Well, let's pay attention to that rock. How is it moving? What's it like? What does it seem to say?" So we talk around it, and usually that will start the narration. And sometimes it will take us back to a past life. That's it's not the most common space. I feel like most people, past lives are nice and great to hear about, and they can connect us. But in
Hmm.
my boring, mundane opinion, it's our actual everyday relationships and our childhoods that we want to avoid. And but there where the work is. The juicy,
Hmm.
juicy work is not in noticing that you might have been this and that in your past life, which can be very connecting. But I wouldn't recommend the search for it. I would well, I just follow the inside, and the inside usually
Hmm.
takes us to there's kids inside of you that aren't being met. They were not met properly when you were small.
Hmm.
Our society, the abuse system we were born in, does not know how to uh, accurately regulate with emotional spaces.
Right.
We also don't know how to initiate. So we've lost a lot of the initiation that is crucial to the development of the mind. So when children, when girls get their periods and boys are, developing, that should be an extremely important time where
Hmm.
they are gathered by the elders or their parents, the adults of the community, where we ceremoniously initiate them into letting go of their childhood and moving into service, responsibility, the very deep, meaningful uh, reality that they can create life now. That's a
Hmm.
big deal. But
Yeah.
none of us, for generations, were raised with, wow, this is very important. Let's mourn your the loss of your childhood. It is now gone. Let's say goodbye. They have initiations, indigenous cultures from all over the world, including European indigenous cultures, which have been lost for way so long. They had initiation spaces where you'd initiate children into adulthood. It's like you
Hmm.
are valuable to your community. We need you. What are your gifts? Step into your adulthood. They'd have vision quests to challenge these spaces where we would let go of them, let go of caring for them like children and say, go be
Hmm.
with yourself and creator and see what you do.
Yeah.
And yes, but we don't have that anymore. We literally
Nope.
just say you're 18, bye. And
Hmm.
what is that? We don't tell them, no, you're 14, you're 15 years old. This is a big deal. And we don't have that initiation. We also don't have confession. Confession as a sacrament. I'm really interested in that, and of course, it comes from the churches, Christian churches, but that's not where it originates, or like that. That's not the point. The Huichols, the Warataka people, at the beginning of their ceremonies, they get their whole community. So they live together in big communities. And the beginning of the
Hmm.
3-day ceremonies, where it's recommended that you don't sleep for 3 days,
Right.
like that's how they do it. The whole community's involved. Of course, you can sleep, but you're trying to stay with the ceremonial value. And at the beginning, they have a confession where everybody puts knots onto a string to say how many
Hmm.
people they've had sex with. And you have to say it out loud.
Hmm.
Everybody knows who everybody slept with. And the point is to allow your reality to come out so that you can have these confession conversations where you say, okay, this is where we slow down. We're not hunting. We're not growing food. We're in ceremony for these 3 days. Let's talk about who we are and let's
Hmm.
confess our sins. But it's not necessarily it isn't just a sin the way that Catholic Church says it. It's oh, I did that and now I want to talk about it. I want to feel the implications of my actions, and I want
Hmm.
to feel how it affected you. And if it hurt you, I'm going to feel some shame. That's healthy shame. That's when you feel recoil when someone else is hurt. That's a
Hmm.
healthy interaction. That's different than toxic shame, which is put on children from disconnected adults. That's different. Healthy shame is when you healthfully recoil from something you did that hurt someone else or that hurt yourself. And so
Yeah.
confession is also like I would say like a ceremonial space that has been lost in our culture that I really like to help, that comes up in somatic work, is like my clients get a chance to say, I don't like what I did. And they get to tell the story of it. And
Yeah.
then they have me and I'm saying, oh, that makes sense. Oh, it makes sense. You were very confused there. Oh, it makes sense. You didn't know you could be cared for there. And then they get to practice and they get to feel that I'm not, making light of their mistakes, their
Hmm.
mistaken perceptions, but I am saying, you're worthy of understanding. Like, go ahead and tell your wife now, or go ahead and tell your husband. Like, give yourself that opportunity to be understood.
Hmm.
So I really like tying together these community connective rights that just are so missing from our culture, is so disconnected, it's so sick.
Well, so do you do a lot out in nature? Are you trying to bring that into your practice? And what are they taking anything to put them into this mental state?
No, no, we are, in my opinion, we are naturally psychedelic. I think the use of plant medicines is a gift, but it's also reminding us of our natural states that we are moving way too fast to notice. We're
Hmm.
moving way too fast, and the reason we're moving way too fast is because our society, that is an abuse system, avoids paying attention to itself, because we
Hmm.
don't know that we can feel pain. And as you were saying, that parallel relationship, we can feel pain and love and lightness and joy, that
Yeah.
you can feel them simultaneously. We don't know that. We don't have any grief um, practices, like indigenous practices. Even my culture, from like where my ancestry comes from, there in Europe, in Czechoslovakia, there were people who grieved on purpose. Like, they were the
Hmm.
people who, when someone died, and I feel like I'm related to this, like, past lifey, because I do
Okay.
this with my clients. When they're sad, I get right into it. I'm like, that is so sad. And I feel it with them. And so then that gives them more permission. They're like, yeah, it is sad. So they see me and they're like, yeah, I'm sad. They get to get it out, because emotions are movement. They
Hmm.
need to move. The emotions that are stagnant, it's like stagnant water. Emotions are water. Emotions that
Hmm.
don't move are stagnant. So pain, sadness, anxiety, it's not the actual emotion that is the problem. It's that we're not connecting with it and giving it permission to move.
Right.
So my sessions are relatively sober, and when I say relatively, it's because I do enjoy holding space for people with a certain medicines, but I'm very,
Hmm.
very careful about that,
Hmm.
in that I only work with my clients, and so we don't have to have
Yeah.
already a very connected relationship, and I'm not super public about it, but if
Yes.
anyone wanted to talk to me one-on-one, I would totally talk to people one-on-one, but I'm trying to be careful as our world is waking up to the benefits of these spaces. Yeah.
And you guys can find Jane at
Yeah.
janecom.com and
Yeah.
on Instagram as well at
Mhm.
janecom counseling.
Yeah, emailing me is better, because I really don't look at Instagram very often, and so you'd be
You're
waiting
like
for a
me.
bit, but email is better, yeah.
Once a day, maybe I look at Instagram.
Oh, I don't
Generally,
even
when
get
I
there
have to
that
post
often.
a show.
Right, yeah, yeah. I'm so glad that for the space you're holding to have these beautiful, deep conversations.
Well, and it's very important that we have these conversations, and bring out different perspectives and different ways that we can get in touch with our inner child and deal with the experiences that we have had.
Mhm.
And what you're talking about with your type of therapy, a lot of people could take huge benefits from
Mhm.
that. And how many somatic therapists are there, and where do people research, and how do they find out about what you're doing?
Well, Google it. I mean, I'm not just somatically trained. I'm also therapeutically trained. I went to a
Okay.
school called Clear Mind International. It folded over COVID, because it's a very experiential school. Like, we really do the work. We're not just
Yeah.
reading books. And so it was amazing, amazing technology I learned out of that. And then I noticed it was lacking a bit in that somatic space that I had found. And that's what I cured myself of my eating disorder. And when I say cured, I don't mean the feelings are gone, they're still there, but I now know how to connect with them. So I don't
Hmm.
resort to the coping mechanisms that I used to. And I've that has cured since I was 33, I think was the last time that I acted out from my eating disorder,
Okay.
and Haven't done that since, but I'm
Congratulations.
48. Yeah. Oh, it was wonderful. It's so exciting. I'd had it since I was 8 years old. So
Hmm.
I thought it was impossible. And now it's just absolutely normal. And I love teaching people that the somatic work, being able to pay attention to the sensations in your body, is so accessible. Anyone can learn it. You can do it anywhere. You can do it in the grocery lineup. You can do it in traffic. Yeah. And it really, really is just so intimate and so personal. Um,
Hmm.
and then I've also been trained through internal family systems. My own training. I did a weekend workshop with Richard Schwartz, but then I just started researching it myself. So I'm not officially trained with him, but that's
Hmm.
my jam as well. I love internal family systems. And then my other teacher, which I'd like to give a shout out to,
Please.
is her name is Anna K. Lucas, and she
Okay.
is a child sex trafficking survivor. She was trafficked since she was 6 years old. She escaped from incredibly synchronistic, amazing. So, I'd love it if you could put her up there somehow, Anna K. Lucas, because you can.
Just a second here. Does she have a website or anything
She
like
does.
that?
She has a website and a blog. She,
Anna.
Anna K, Anneke.
Okay, Anna K. Lucas.
Lucas, Lucas, and she is life changing. Reading
Oh,
her blog was like a year of school, of counseling school. Her blog is incredible because she has been through the most torturous, traumatic experiences a person can go through as a child. And she has come out the other end with an incredible therapeutic model called the unconditional model. She is an incredible help
it-
to survivors. Yeah, that's her, all right.
okay. I'll make sure I
Yeah.
follow her right now.
Yes. She will school you from the heart. She is
Okay.
incredible. And so she's also one of my supervisors and teachers. Yeah. And her, the unconditional model, uh, is an incredible resource to hold space for like, the extremist trauma. And so, and also her explanations and analysis and understandings of the spiritual sickness that is sex trafficking, and also the class system, because the people she was trafficked by were the richest, most powerful people in the world. Thank you, silly Lily. Yeah. So she's
Well, and
also
I'm
a big
glad
influence.
that you're sharing the people that have taught you as well, because that's
Yeah.
one of the big things that we need to do is share those voices. I tell people, listen to
Mhm.
many voices, find the ones that resonate with you, and follow those people, and then always keep searching for more.
Totally. I tell that to my clients too. I'm like, don't you worry if you quit me, because you should quit me. You should learn from me until you're done, and then off you go. You're great. Like, keep exploring. We have so much to teach each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just a growth. And I'm glad that you do that with your clients to, you've taken them into the child and you've brought them up at least to the teenager. Now time to go and learn.
Yes. Yes. What I'm doing is strengthening their adult self. Actually, I'm going to
Mhm.
show you something. I have a,
Okay.
yeah. Yes. That's unusual. But I'll close with this. So,
Okay, let me bring you a big
every
screen.
every time we are triggered, we are in a disconnected child part. And what
Cool.
the child part is looking for is this part, which, oh,
Upside down.
which I refer to as the adult self. So the
Okay.
adult self is not a feeling, it's a state of being that you can strengthen. So the adult self is, some people refer to it as your higher self. It's the part of you that is calm, connected, curious, and compassionate. And so the work that I'm doing is to strengthen your
Mhm.
awareness of your adult self, the part of you that is not overwhelmed by your
Mhm.
kid parts, that is not repulsed by your disgusting parts. It's connected and able to care for it. So I'm strengthening that umbilical cord inside of you that goes from your adult self, that higher self, to the kid part, and also connects the adult self to guidance as well, because we're not meant to do it alone. In my personal opinion, I'm big on guidance. Everybody has it. It's also as unique to every person. It's absolutely unique. And that's
Mhm.
also what we strengthen in the somatic practice that I offer. So, dun, 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 dun.
Exactly, and I know that, like, I don't know if you've ran into John Burfello, but he's always talking about the, find the coaches that you need, find the who can lead you to where you need to go, and that's basically exactly what you're saying as well, which is beautiful.
Yes. Let's help each other
Yes.
back home. Yeah.
Well, and I'll bring up one last thing here. Let me see, where is it? Remember, it's all about caring, sharing, and community.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna cut the show off here, young lady, because
Yeah.
we're at an hour already, and it just flew by. I
Bye.
want to thank you so much for coming. You're an amazing young woman,
Thank
and
you.
I think a lot of
I'm not so
people that
young.
watch this, you are, you're a baby kid. Okay, you're a baby.
Okay.
I think a lot of people that watch this in the future are going to be reaching out to not necessarily just to you, but to other somatic
Yeah,
teachers,
great.
researching it and going like,
Mhm.
what exactly is this stuff? This isn't that
Yeah.
voodoo stuff, is it?
Not totally.
Not totally, just a little bit. No needles in bodies or anything
No, no,
now.
no. Nothing to have power over others ever. No.
Okay, everybody's saying thank you very much. So
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
you bet. With that, guys, check out Andy and myself tomorrow. Luna has a guest on Thursday, and we have some amazing shows coming up on the Soil Matters. We got a guy going to be talking about energy and crystals and
Mm.
healing with crystal energy and light. And that's where I got the heart thing, healing the heart with the right
Mm.
frequency. So you guys are going
Right.
to want to, that's
Yeah.
that's coming up in December 4th. He's going to be coming up. Lots of great shows coming, guys. With that, everybody, peace out. We love you all, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.